This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to A Sharp Outlook on K4HD Radio and Talk Or TV. I am Angela Sharp, your host. Our armchair discussions with industry experts will give you the steps, tools, and information to be successful in business and to prepare you to be your best self. Hello, I'm Angela Sharp, and welcome to A Sharp Outlook. Today we are going to talk about your life being reimagined. Imagine that. Are you feeling stuck? Do you dream of a life with more meaning, passion, joy? Then you've come to the right place this morning. Do you find yourself searching for purpose, feeling unfulfilled or lost in your current life path? We're going to discuss this and more. We are going to discuss those feelings about seeking more meaning and purpose, looking for inspiration and motivation to live your best life, committed to personal growth and self-improvement. Your life can be reimagined. And what kind of person am I talking to? I'm talking to someone overcoming fear and self-doubt, having difficulty building stronger relationships, looking to create a fulfilling career, needing to improve your health and well-being. I know about that. And desire to know joy and happiness. Are you ready to take control of your life and start cultivating a growth mindset, achieving financial freedom, and living with intention? Well, today I have a guest, and we're going to talk about being able to reimagine your life, looking at where you are and making decisions to change that particular trajectory. My guest is Eric Ayers, is an innovative catalyst and transformation guide, building cultures where innovation is human-centered, scalable, and sustainable. Guides organizations to align purpose, people, and process, creating a ripple effect of positive change. Eric is the founder and CEO of my company is EMC Squared LLC, and I offer life by design with two paths. One, through my Align by Design, and group organizational through Culture by Design. Think coaching versus consulting. He has been an RN for over 2 decades. He is the creator of SIM, prescription trademark, which is the ultimate culture by design modality used for consulting organizations, specifically healthcare, and shifting culture through empowering and experimental education. He's also an author of a book called SIM, prescription trademark, Transforming Healthcare, Leadership, and Culture by Design, which is the book that houses the modality and framework to create the culture organizations seek. He offers Life by Design, which is 2 paths. One, through the Align by Design and group organizational through Culture by Design, and Think coaching versus consulting. I'd like to invite Eric to join me so we can begin our conversation, how to reimagine your life and taking control. And how about let's just not be stuck any longer. Hi, Eric. Welcome to A Sharp Outlook.
Hello, Angela. Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting.
Yes,
so glad to be here.
I'm really happy to have this conversation because I know I had been years ago struggling with health issues, and I, went through the whole take all these pills kind of medication to make things better, and I got worse instead of better. I used to have ulcerative colitis, And anyone knows anything about it, it's a devastating, embarrassing,
Mhm.
almost, you're almost stuck in the house. You can't go anywhere just because of the controls that normal people have. You no longer have them any longer. And
Absolutely.
they finally came up to the point where they tried to give me chemo and shut down my immune system. That's when I said, you know what? I'm not taking any more medicine. And he said, oh, you don't have a choice. I'm like, oh, I do have a choice
Yes.
not to take this path and allow medications to kill me. No, thank you. And after 2 sessions of it, and I was so sick, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I went to a medicine woman from Warm Springs. I had gone to her teaching on herbs and medicines, and she told me to take devil's claw. And in fact, they make a lot of anti-inflammatories from devil's claw.
Mhm.
Hey, how about just giving us the tea? I'm sorry, I had to do that. I drank the tea, and in 2 weeks, after 18 years of suffering, it was gone. I've never had another episode, and my immune system is strong. It keeps me from, getting diseases, but I had to make a choice for my life that I wasn't going to go down somebody else's path as to what. So I'm really excited to talk about it. It's time to modernize how we treat ourselves. So
Absolutely.
tell us more about your program.
Yeah. So to start off, I want to recognize the power that we have in remembering that understanding of. So in your story, there was a point of identifying, I'm not going to go further in this treatment because I have this remembering, this understanding of something higher, right? Something innate within us. And I refer to that as our 5-year-old self, because our 5-year-olds very rarely needed permission to reimagine anything. They
Mhm.
continuously reimagine. They were not confound to the constructs of limitations. They lived
Right.
in a world of possibility.
Mhm.
And ultimately, at the core of everything, it's the 5-year-old plus the idea of Ubuntu, of I am because we are. We
Mhm.
are human. So healthcare is a human service industry.
Right.
And I'm proposing that the human element is what's missing in healthcare. So SimRx is our prescription for compassion, connection, and competency.
Mhm.
And I personally believe that if we have those three, then we are able to create a culture beyond um, beyond simply treating a illness, and now we're able to care for the humans that are entering our space. So
Mhm.
um, that's the entry to SimRx in my world.
Well, I can definitely say that I don't feel the humanness when I'm going in. It's like they go look at a computer, and I do software for my
Mhm.
day job. I also am an accountant. I understand analytics. I understand, trends and all of those different things. I don't want you to treat me like I'm a trend. I want you to treat me like I'm a human and listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
And then let's resolve it based on what I have told you, not what you go in, because there may be some symptoms I have that's not on your chart. So
Mhm.
I'm going to get bad care. I'm not going to get I mean we love doctors. We believe me, I'm not trying to harm anyone, because I know you're restricted also to what the little plan is that they set out for you, and that's
Right.
how most of those types of jobs, even in finance, even in tech, you usually have these little restrictions, and you stay within these guidelines, and it will work. But it's only designed based on what was happening at the time it was built,
Mhm.
which it was built too long ago, Eric.
It was.
It's
It
time to
was.
refreshen this thing and start doing something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's built on systems. And the disconnect in my personal experience is the recognition of, we have these 1,000 plus employees in a hospital, for example, and they're all doing their job because they're following the system that is built within there. But where is the passion? Where is the potential? Where is the upgrade? Right? If AI is entering the world, we have to recognize AI. If we don't, then we're going to be the one sitting at home with the Encyclopedia Britannica,
Right.
and not using the internet. Like this is coming. So how do we use it? How do we prepare ourselves? And how do we make it better? And I think we do that together. And so I feel as though sometimes the system blinds us to our potential. And I think that's another aspect of the human element being pulled out of that, because it's methodical, it's habitual, and it's a factory style mode of work. So how do we create human centric innovation? And that's the missing piece, because it brings balance and it brings us back to alignment. And I think that starts with self, and our self journey then can create a collaboration of others.
Well, what does life reimagined mean to you, and how does your work help people achieve this?
Absolutely. So when I think of reimagining life, I don't think about adding more grind. We live in a world of hustle and bustle, and it's like, just put your head down and grind. To me, that's the opposite. So I think of how my 5-year-old would do it. He would approach it with more curiosity, more play, and more connection. So, and I think that's where transformation begins. So life reimagined is taking the words and the idea of Neville Goddard of living from the end, figuring out, what do I want, what aligns with who I am, and I'm going to picture that. I'm going to picture it so well that I'm going to have an emotional feeling towards that. And then let's work backwards. So what is my plan to get there? What brings me joy? What am I allowed to play? Which is curiosity. And to me, play is curiosity and joy put together. And these micro steps create this macro shift. And when I get there, I feel as though there's been a huge transition, but I've only taken these micro steps that have shifted my trajectory. So in a nutshell, that's what reimagining life to me is.
I was, as you were talking about being that 5-year-old and imagining things. Now, let's just say I've lived quite a long time, and we didn't have they did have tricycles and bicycles, but my neighbor friend, we decided, because we used to play together. Fred, I still remember his name, Fred Rice. And we decided we wanted to have a go-kart. Now, we didn't have any open up a box and put stuff together. We found some old wood that was laying around because people were, building their house. So we stole their wood. I'm sorry. And we had the saw. We were out there cutting it up to make the sideboards and make pedals. And then we got some rope that ended up, helping to propel it. And we was just, so when we moved the pedals, it moved the wheels. And we didn't know what we were doing, but we imagined what we wanted to get to. And we created a go-kart. And of course, we had to use our little foot power, but we still were able to steer and all this other stuff. We built the coolest little go-kart. And we were smiling. We had the grins, we had laughter. We just had a good time, but we actually engineered something, and we had no background. We were like maybe 5, 6 years old, out there. And gosh, that was so much fun. Just imagining building something that was mobile. And we would race it down the alley and over to the fairgrounds, which wasn't too far from us. Oh, we just had a ball. So, just remembering that. Just so
and I could feel that energy as you share that story. So thank you for that. And imagine if we do this in our everyday job. Imagine the joy and the amazing innovations that we would create on a
Yeah.
daily basis. And
Mhm.
it's like every day is, how do we make this better? Not that it's not working, but we're evolving because we're spiritual beings who are here to be as large and as expansive as we possibly can. So if we are, then how do we expand that into our work? And I could see the Wright brothers in your story. These two bicycle mechanics who are like, oh, I saw a bird fly. What if we built something like that? We don't know what we're doing, but we're
Mhm.
going to try and fail so many times that we're going to figure out how to defy gravity.
Yes.
And so these are innately in all of us. I think it's giving ourselves permission to
Yes.
go there again, because I think we've allowed the world to take our permission slip away. And so now this is giving ourselves a permission slip to create and to be curious and innovate again.
Wow, I'll tell you that, I mean, when I think about that I know all of us have some kind of creative spirit or something because it comes, from the divine.
Yes.
And whatever challenges that we've gone through, though, that kind of try to dampen that or, you know, um, restrict that or whatever, we have to, kind of shake that off. That's someone else's problem over there. Let's shake that off. And wow, if we just let ourselves just for a moment, let our minds like roam like the 5-year-old
Yes.
who had no restrictions on what he thought he could do. He didn't have any boundaries. He didn't have any ideas that I can't do it. He was able to do the impossible. And it's time for new revolution in the nation and in the world. Like I said, AI is a new revelation of what started when I began working was the
Mhm.
PC. I saw the first PC. And we used to have old punch cards to try to get financial information
Yeah.
out of a system. And I was forced to learn how to write software code because it was the only way I could perform my job as an accountant, because it was the only way I could get reporting. So I learned software writing because the technology was changing, the world was changing, and I had to keep up with it. But it was cool for me because I was like, wow, let me see how this happens. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what you have to do. Just imagine what you could be and forget about where you've been and all the hurts and all the pains and the traumas and things like that and go back to where you dreamed.
Mhm.
That's how I kind of think it. What are some of the biggest limiting beliefs or societal norms that hold people back from designing their ideal lives?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit because you referenced it in your story of, you said we were not engineers, we were only 5 or 6 year olds. So I think one of the biggest limiting beliefs is title. We don't have to have a title to change the world. We
Right.
simply have to be who we are. And identifying or identity tied to a job title is actually disempowering, because
Mhm.
it if I don't know, if I'm a manager of a unit, if I take that on as who I am and that's my title, that's all I do. And it completely creates this dissonance of who I actually am. And over time, that dissonance, which is disempowering, creates burnout.
Mhm.
So I think, yes, understanding, all right, this is my title because this is what I've been put in charge of. But how do I align this with my true superpowers? Because we all have superpowers.
Mhm.
And getting a team together and utilizing everyone's superpowers is one of the coolest things to
Oh,
ever
yeah.
witness,
Yeah.
because ego is like driven out of the way. And now it's a bunch of 5-year-olds in the sandbox again saying, how are we going to build the coolest sand castle? And everyone's like, I'm really good at constructing, I'm really good at organizing. And then all of a sudden, like, we have this amazing product. So just like your go-kart that you and your friends created, it just happened because everyone tapped into their innate genius. So, and I also think the limiting belief of seriousness equals professionalism, I think that's false. I think if we've all been in boring meetings to where it's professional, but it's like, this is an hour of my life I can never get back. So how do we bring the fun back into our work, right? Because we enjoy, when we enjoy something, we remember it, we feed into it, and we don't feel bogged down. And the example of that is learning to ride a bicycle. Like, this is scaling fun. At first, we have no concept of gravity until we fall. And then we're like, oh, okay, I lean to the right. This time I'm going to lean to the left. And then you fall to the left. And then you create balance. And then you're riding. But when we learn to ride, we don't just stop.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a stop. It's, oh, I learned how to ride. This was fun. Now, what's the next step? How much more fun can I have? And then you get to the point where, you know, people ride miles at a time and they're enjoying the scenery, riding off roads. And the fun continues to scale because we're curious, we're playful, and we're learning as we go. And if we're learning, we can't judge. And that's a key piece of, if we're curious, we're figuring out something and learning, and it takes the judgment out of the way. And we're literally the 5-year-old figuring out how to build this go-kart. And the rest of the world doesn't exist because it doesn't matter, because we are changing the world in this moment. So that's the short long of it.
It makes me think of, I consult now, but I used to be in an employee and in the corporate environment. And I would be sitting in those meetings, generally the only women, because at that time, not a lot of women were in finance or tech. And, everybody's there, standing there all stiff and this, that, and the other. And you want to talk about breaking down the ice? I would look at them and say, you know what? You guys need to lighten up, because let me tell you who you really are, since you think you're so important. If you go out here and get hit by a bus, there are 125 applications in there to replace you within the next 30 seconds. So don't think too much of yourself and your little title. And I was like, we are all here to sit and bring ideas and come up with solutions. There's no big person here. There's no little I. There's no big I. It's just us. So let's knock that stuff off. They would look at me and be shocked. But I stop looking at the title. It doesn't mean anything. It might mean you get paid a certain amount, but it doesn't define who you are as a human being.
Nope.
And you're right. We have to stop the titles and realize, especially in an environment where you're working as teams, everybody is supposed to bring something to the table, and then we flush it all out to find the right solutions. And no one person knows everything. We do need collaboration. We do need other input. And so, just tear that stuff down. Okay, you managers out there, stop thinking you're God's gift to the world. You're just a human that has a specific gift. Use it to help others to grow, because you're not always going to be in that position. I used to tell them, I want you to learn my job so I can get a promotion. If you don't learn my job, I can't ever be promoted. People sit there and hold information and hide it. You're going to be stuck there. Share it so you can get out and move up or do something else. My goodness gracious.
That brings up a very good point. So this is what introduced me to the full understanding of the scale of SimRx. So SimRx, at a bare bones, is creating micro content for macro change. So how do we bring simulation and education to our people to allow them to practice like they play, and practice until proficient? And there was one moment where I saw a physician that I highly respect. We were working a serious situation on an 8-year-old, and he was doing chest compressions on this child, and he wasn't paying attention to the job that he was doing. He was actually paying attention to the family and emotionally supporting them while he was providing life-saving interventions. And it clicked to me that is true competency. If we know how to do something so well, we don't have to think about it, we automatically have the ability to provide human connection. And that's what's missing. So if we completely shift from a factory style mentality of I'm going to do this, this, and this, and say, I'm going to be so competent in my job that whatever's asked of me, my body's going through the habitual patterns and motions because it knows how to do it. And I'm going to provide emotional support for the human being that I'm taking care of in front of me. Everything shifts because the care is amazing because we know how to do that skill, task, whatever the case may be. But more importantly, this human on the other side feels worthy. They feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like they matter. And if we can do that, the possibilities are endless. And so ultimately, this is competency to me, is creating an environment to where the culture is driven by pure competency because we're leading through human connection. And to those managers, this is where leadership comes in, is when you know how to manage your title manager so well, then you can start leading. And how do we get to that place? How do we get there even quicker?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think a lot of managers understand the difference. You set up your processes, and if everyone's following the process, everything's managed. You're going to reach your goals. You're going to get what you're supposed to be. But then there's going to be other things because companies are always expanding where they're going to need leadership into something new. Now you're going to be spending time helping to bring knowledge to your team so they're able now to go project into this whole new environment where there's going to be, some wins and some losses and different things like that. And they're emotionally not going to, take it personally and feel like, oh gosh, I let everybody down. No, that's just all part of progress. There are going to be some wins. There's going to be some losses. But a lot of people don't know what leadership is and what management is. And they really are two different. I wish I'd get rid of the titles, my goodness, because they say things that are really not, they don't help the organization.
Yeah, because it's interesting, the title of manager, but they're over a department of people, right? And then the leadership team is the C-suite, but who are they put in front of leading, right? And so this is the caveat to taking our title as what we do and who we are. No, if we can simply be, okay, I'm really good at managing tasks and processes, but I'm going to empower anyone I can because I'm going to let them know this is progress over perfection. So if you're failing, awesome. That means you're trying. And it's only failure if you give it permission to be so. Otherwise, it's a learning opportunity. So let's keep learning and let's keep doing this. And let's practice the way we play, practice till proficient, and let's see how we can shift this culture into something that is empowered by the people that actually run the hospital, the employees, right? So
right. And they're how do you say it? I don't know how to say it the right way, but they're on the ground actually touching the people that are really needing the help. You have the others, like you say, the C-suite, they're not in touch with anything. They're kind of like on their little cloud. Hey, why don't you come down out of the sky and see how everybody else is working out? You might be able to come up with some better ideas. It's just, those kinds of things, you got to have your teams and things like that. But one of the things I always used to say when I was training people to be a manager or a supervisor, I let them know that it's your job that other team members learn. And if they fail, you're going to have to ask yourself some questions. Did you give them all the tools they needed to succeed? Not the tools you used to use, but the tools they need to succeed. If they failed, you're responsible because you didn't prep them and you didn't give them all of the workable tools they needed to succeed in their position they're in. I mean, if we humanize our work environments a little more, they would really be so much more productive. You would have customers out there who would actually be excited to share. You want to shop here because these people are so nice, because people could be nice because everything's flowing cool.
Absolutely.
But
And
it's, all of those gaps. Yeah.
their leaders, it's flowing because their leaders set up an environment for them to be human, for them to be who they were hired to be. And that's the beauty of it when it's set up correctly. And
Mhm.
yes, all of that. Love it. Love it.
What are some practical steps listeners can take to initiate transformative change in their lives, and if they feel stuck or overwhelmed?
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic because it can go into many different areas. I think first and foremost, we have to recognize. If we don't recognize, we're simply going through the habitual patterns of our paradigms that were created. So it's I tell my coaching clients when they get really frustrated at themselves because they recognize a pattern that they've been in. No, this is amazing because you actually recognize it now. Before, how many years, 20 years have we been running in this habitual pattern, and now you recognize it. We can't do anything unless we identify it and see it. So if we see it, recognize that, oh, this is amazing, like this is a level up of, oh, I'm seeing this from a different perspective, and breathe. Breath is one of the most sacred, amazing sources that we have to work with. And breathe
Mm-hmm.
and offer self-forgiveness, because
Mm-hmm.
we are not perfect. We are here to learn, and this is part of learning. And something that was said early on in the show is, like, be playful. Don't take everything so seriously. And I'm speaking to myself here as well, because I'm, a recovering perfectionist. So I the same thing. And it starts with that. And if you need a visual, ask, okay, what would my 5-year-old self do right now? Because they already have the answer. It's
Mm-hmm.
And that allows us to get out of our own head and into remember who we are. And I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest key.
Yeah. And if you look at 5-year-olds, yeah, they might fall down, or they might, not do things quite right, but they let it blow over their head. It's like, it's not that serious. They don't
Yes.
get bent out of shape. We get so bent out of shape, and we're our worst critics.
Mhm.
We can't even get along with ourselves. We look in the mirror and it's like, we're upset.
Mhm.
It's like,
Mhm.
you better love you, because if you can't love you, you really can't love anybody else.
Right.
When you have this, I don't want to say it this way, but this kind of self-hatred,
Mhm.
you can't love anyone else, and you have to forgive yourself and realize that you do have a value. You just have to find out what is in you that brings the value out, that can be a part of humanity,
Absolutely.
just not knowing that. How can people identify their core values and ensure their life design is aligned with them?
So this is interesting because values it's in every business's business model, right? Their mission, their values,
Mhm.
and that begins with individual values. Um, I honestly believe that we rediscover these. So we'll take my personal story. I'm 10 plus years into healthcare, into nursing, and I'm completely burned out. And my first my first introduction into this burnout was my wife catching me before I walked out the door and said, "Hey, Eric, when you go to work tonight, look for something good because it's there. You just have to look for it."
Mhm.
And I was like, "You're crazy. No, everything is awful. Like, I mean, do you understand the world I'm living in? And I'm going through this chaotic mess." And then the story goes, it was the greatest night of my professional career. I was introduced to a 4-year-old Down syndrome patient who was so sick, but she had one energy to give to me. And I just knew it was good. I didn't know what it was. And then her dad started interacting with me. And it was a really tall man that offered compassion. And his voice what he was saying was good. Again, I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was good. So it turns out that was love. It was unconditional love in two different ways. And it was very interesting because I created such a dissonance in my purpose and what I was doing that I didn't recognize who I was anymore.
Mhm.
So first step is identifying there is a gap, and then actually going within. So I realized I was not feeling emotions at all because they were a protective
Mhm.
mechanism that I created from the bad things that I was seeing, in results of patients that I was caring for. And it was a protective thing, but I couldn't turn it off and on. It was numbing me. So what happens when we see the world through joy, curiosity, and belonging, which is what this idea of where is the good, that's what I started seeing. And
Mhm.
the finding the good led me back to my mission, my purpose, and my values. And values can change. Of course, there's value assessments that we can do, but having, I think this depends on where we are in the environment and in the work environment. If we are a manager, we're at an amazing place to offer value propositions
Mhm.
to our employees to help them see that. And then likewise, we can do that with our uppers. But so if it feels fuzzy, again, start with your younger self. Like what did you enjoy doing as a child? My 5-year-old self loved boundaries, but he loved to take it all the way to the boundaries and saying, how far can we stretch this? How far can we move these boundaries out? And it was the innovative self saying, how can we make more room for more people to come play? And
Mhm.
how do we do that? So human connection, human involvement, that became remembered value of mine.
Well, how do people stop the voices that kind of hold them back? What are some common obstacles people face when trying to redesign their lives, and how can they overcome those voices that say you're not worthy, or you did this, or you're gonna mess it up, or I know what I did, but and I
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And the voice of not enough was my voice. And that's a lot of voices that people hear. Starting off, I'm gonna let everyone know you are more than enough and you are
Mhm.
so worthy and you're worth it.
Yes.
And if you don't hear that from anyone else, I'm speaking truth, and say that back to yourself. That is to me the number one voice that is debilitating. And
Mhm.
so when we recognize this voice of not enough, not living up to unrealistic expectations, there's a couple of things here that are very powerful. One, recognizing and asking yourself, is this my voice? Because chances are it's not. Chances are
Mhm.
it was built from a situation or an environment that allowed us to take this as a new title of not enough.
Mhm.
The second thing is standing in front of a mirror and saying, I am more than enough. I am worthy. I love you. And it's the weirdest thing in the world until it's not. And there is something about saying it to yourself. Louise Hay built a empire around um, tending to our younger self, and it starts with offering forgiveness and offering and doing this through mirror work. So
Mhm.
that would be the first thing. And then also like pausing, breathing, and while you question that voice, like whose voice is this?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
understanding we don't have to give it permission to live in our head anymore. We don't have to believe it.
Mhm.
Just because we have a thought doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go in this habitual pattern. So whose voice is it? And even if it's mine, whose is it? Because even if it's my voice, where did it come from? And become
Right.
curious about it and find it and be like, that's not who I am. I
Yeah.
am worthy.
Yeah. I remember, years back, a girlfriend of mine, she and I would go every Saturday to the alcohol and drug addiction centers and meet with, those that were there, trying to kick addiction.
Mhm.
And we would just, talk with them and share with them. And I did a little, I don't know, skit, you know, to show them what they were worth. I took a $20 bill. I said, "Who wants this $20 bill?" And it was a brand new one. It was crisp and looking really good. And everybody was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." And then I crumpled it up. And then I threw it on the floor and stepped on it and ground it in the dirt. And then I was just about getting ready to spit on it. And I said, "Oh, it's dirty enough. Okay, now who wants this $20 bill?" And then it kind of saw some of them not raising their hands. I'm like, "Why aren't you raising your hand?" "Oh, because it got a little dirty. It got a little crumpled up." "Well, let me open it back up. Isn't this still a $20 bill? It has not lost its value.
Right.
Maybe the outside of it got a little dirty. Maybe the outside of it got a little crumpled. But the inside, it's still $20. It'll still go buy, a burger and some fries and a Coca-Cola and some other things. It didn't lose its value. Well, that's
Right.
who you are. You got a little crumpled,
Mhm.
but your value hasn't changed. Now I just need you to see yourself that you are still have the same value. Stop those voices in your head. I will suggest maybe changing some of your friendships and connections,
Mhm.
but stop telling yourself you're not worthy. Stop telling yourself you're not good enough. If you feel like you've hurt someone, go say, "I'm sorry." And then stand in the mirror after our meeting and go tell yourself, "I'm sorry." And
Absolutely.
forgive yourself, and let's move on. You got too much talent. You have too many gifts. You have too many great things inside of you. Don't let this steal away the beautiful life that you was intended for you. I'll tell you, and I enjoy that because, I'd be walking down the street going to lunch from my job. And I remember this girl chasing, running across the street, "Angela, Angela, Angela." And I'm like, "Yeah, you probably don't remember me, but I'm so and so. I'm in college now. I used to be at the treatment center." And it just made me feel so overjoyed because just telling them that they were worthy
Mhm.
made them change, made them seek better things, made them reimagine what their lives could be. It
Absolutely.
was happening before I even knew what you were saying,
Yeah.
Eric.
Yeah, you gave them a permission slip. And like
Yeah.
it's the most beautiful thing that we can do as humans is open someone's eyes to the construct that they've been living in and say, "No, no, no, you're valuable." Like
Mhm.
see your value because we see it. And
Yeah.
we're better when you're with us.
Mhm.
So I love that. And it's amazing the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
used to early on in my marriage, I would tell my wife, if you could only see me through my eyes instead of yours, you would see the beauty and the profound amazingness that's within you. And so, like, how do we start to see ourselves from other people's perspectives? And
Mhm.
I think that starts with like the human connections that we intentionally put forth. Like, I love that story because yes, we are valuable and we
Mhm.
are going to get dirty and maybe ripped and torn a bit, but like that adds to the story. It doesn't take
Yes.
away the value,
Yes. It
right?
really does. It really does. It really does. And, I would feed on Friday nights, I would feed the homeless and, just working with them. A lot of them were veterans, and my heart goes out to them because they gave so much, and they come back and nobody sees them. They
Right.
walk past them like they're a tree or a rock on the sidewalk. They don't look them in the face. They don't see them. And I don't know whether it's a fear or what it is, but, I said they just need to be seen.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so it really helped them. And so many of them were able to pull their lives together. Some of their stories, oh my gosh, they were unbelievable. But you know, I would be there just to listen to their story. And I think just me listening really helped many of them
Yeah,
to make different decisions. All of them are because of some choices. And like we just got to choose to go for our purpose, or whatever stopped us or changed us. And I think we need to talk to ourselves and be our own best friends instead of our own best critics.
absolutely.
Because you can run into a whole lot of people who are going to put you down.
For sure. For
Just
sure.
go outside. You don't have to look far.
Yep.
There's going to be
Absolutely.
somebody there. But so you have to come in and tell yourself. And I always keep hearing my mother and my father's voice telling me, "Oh, Angela, you can do anything."
Mm.
And that it really still makes me keep going. It really does. Hearing them say, "Oh, you can do anything." Okay, so you messed up a little here, but you can do anything. And
Mhm.
that's always pushed me and kept me moving onward, onward, onward. And so it's just, you know, can you share some examples of small, actionable steps the listeners can take today to start reimagining their lives?
Yeah. After, so let's say a situation comes up and it's an identification of, wait a minute, this doesn't feel in alignment, or I'm burned out, or there's a dissonance. A simple journal of what would my 5-year-old self do here, and
Hmm.
having no constructs, literally tapping into imagination. Um, Something else that is super simple but very profound is to swap an obligation for a joy this week.
Hmm.
So whatever that may be, let let a joy come into your calendar, replace something that you have on there with something joyous, and then share it with someone.
Hmm.
Like, legit share the joy, the experience with someone, for not only accountability but for connection. Like, give someone else a permission slip to reimagine their lives, because that allows us to tap into this well of a spring that is never ending, and it opens up a different level. So yeah, those are 3 very small but yet very profound things that we can start doing right now.
Hmm. Well, we're running out of time. I'd like you to share with the audience, because we are also on radio. How can they get in touch with you and your organization and even your counseling?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Also, my website is lifebydesign.me. I have access to all of the things that I offer in Aligned by Design, Culture by Design. You can pick up the book, SimRx, Transforming Healthcare Leadership and Culture by Design, on
Hmm.
Amazon. Those are the easiest places, or email at eric@lifebydesign.me.
Okay, and I will have these put out there on my website so that people are able to get in touch and get this wonderful information. I mean, yes, I've had a long work career and everything, but yes, I'm still redesigning myself. I
We
don't plan
always
on
are.
doing it because I plan on living to be 120, okay, maybe 105, but I plan on being around, so I have to continue to redesign myself.
Absolutely.
Eric, thank you so much for being here to have this, just exciting conversation. You have to come back um, and give us more, because there's just so much more, to tell us. But we have to wrap up. I know everyone enjoyed. It's time to reimagine your life. It's time to change those negativities and tell those voices in your head, stop talking to me, and move on and tell yourself you're wonderful, because you are wonderful. You are wonderfully and fearfully made, and
Mm.
there is a place for you to go and shine. So let's get to it. Thank you for joining A Sharp Outlook. And as always, We are here every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And whatever you do this week, stay informed. I want to thank you for joining us on A Sharp Outlook. We have been informed and energized to take the next steps. We have posted links to websites and videos to learn more on today's topic. Please join us again next week for another thought-provoking conversation right here on K4 HD Radio and Talk 4 TV. Listen to the podcast on all the podcast apps. And until next week, stay informed.